Let's roll. This is SportsRage. I am Gabriel Morency. The pimps, the players, the hustlers, the people that bust them, and everybody else in between. The Wicked Wednesday has begun, and it's the calm before the storm. We have a Thursday throwdown like none other before. And in fact, I think it's the most stacked Thursday in the history of sports when you consider we've got opening day Major League Baseball, we've got the Sweet 16, and we've got Frozen 4 hockey action going on tomorrow afternoon as well. The weekend is going to be lit. The women's tournament continues over the weekend. Iowa, 7.5-point favorites over the Colorado Buffaloes. That game is Saturday at 3:30. Ice Cube offers Caitlin Clark $5 million to play in 8 games and potentially 2 playoff games in the Big Three, but she's ghosting him. And I don't know if it's just me, but maybe Caitlin's getting a little bit of attitude right now. At least you can, say thank you for the offer and no, I don't want to do it. But I don't really understand why she wouldn't want to make $5 million to play in 8 3-on-3 pickup basketball games. But it is what it is. Speaking of basketball, the Thunder and the Houston Rockets in action, a smoking red-hot Houston Rockets. I grabbed the Rockets plus 4.5. There's no SGA tonight for OKC. It's 92-88 with 8:48 left in the basketball game. Oklahoma City, just got up by like 8 or 10, and Houston are starting to come back again right now. Should be a close game until the end. Chet Holmgren was just taking a seat on the bench. We got an NBA game coming up here with the Phoenix Suns and the Denver Nuggets. Tell you what, the Phoenix Suns, they're underachievers. We know this. We know they can be dangerous at times, but as a whole, they're underachievers. And one thing that we do know about the Phoenix Suns as well, they're very slow starters. We talked about this with the Toronto Raptors. The Raptors get murdered in like the first quarter, the first half of basically every game that they ever play in. And Phoenix aren't like any different. Phoenix are 2-8 their last 10 first quarters. 2-8. All right, like on the road, they're 3-7. Like they get lit up early in basketball games all the time. And they're playing the Denver Nuggets tonight. So it's a short price. You got to lay 3 points in the first half or 2 in the first quarter. Shout out to everyone joining us on Sirius XM channel 159. It's the Wicked Wednesday, so Brady Cannon is going to step up and in. The Raging Redhead throws it down with us. It's the Houston Open this week. Calm before the storm in the golf world as well, as the Masters now just a couple of weeks away. The real, the one tournament that kind of everybody cares about. There's other majors, but the Masters is kind of like the Daytona 500 of the NASCAR season, right? That's the one. So the Masters rapidly approaching. We'll talk Houston Open. Scottie Scheffler trying to become the first player to win 3 tournaments in a row that he's entered since Dustin Johnson did it. Not easy to do. All right. But Scottie Scheffler's that good right now. Paul Bovey kicks it with us. We'll talk NBA basketball with Paul. We'll see what Paul thinks about the Sweet 16, what he's laid it down on. And Paul's going to say, well, I didn't really bet on it very much. And in reality, he's probably got like $25,000 on it. So we'll see what Paul has to say. George Kurtz in the house tonight. Major League Baseball, countdown to first pitch is on. The New York Met game has already been rained out. I swear, this happens every year with the Mets. Maybe you should have the Mets, the only people stupider than the National Hockey League, and great job tonight, guys, with 2 games, and you have a full slate tomorrow going head-to-head with the Sweet 16 and Major League Baseball opening night. Brilliant. And it's not just for ratings and stuff. You screw your fans over, right? Hockey fans are sports fans too. It's I got to go to this hockey game now when you knew it was going to be the Sweet 16. The Sweet 16 dates were announced before. I know it comes to a shock to the National Hockey League, right? It's been announced before, but baseball's not much smarter. To be honest, if you're Major League Baseball, why would you have your opening day and wait? Yeah, why don't we do it on that Thursday that they're going to have the Sweet 16 on? There's a lot of stupidity to go around in this world. So we've got a full house on the program tonight. We got NIT action going on right now as well. And this NIT tournament has been fun. Shout out to Seton Hall. Seton Hall absolutely drilled UNLV. And I swear, listen, we hit the over the basketball game, so we got the split, so that's actually good, all things considering. But if I look back on this year, and it hasn't just been this year with UNLV basketball has been a problem for me for years, all right? And it's something weird going on now about these Vegas teams. I don't like betting on Vegas Golden Knight games. I'm always wrong. If I take them to win, they lose. If I take them to lose, they win. The UNLV Running Rebels, same thing. And I swear, I'm never right when it comes to Seton Hall, and they played each other tonight. So Seton Hall were the ones that got it done. Seton Hall covered the game, went over the number. The Utah Utes are in action right now against VCU. We're at the half. It's 36-26 for the Utah Utes. They're currently laying 11.5 points. The total is 137.5. It closed at 144.5. I think they're going to go over to 137.5. It'll open up. It was kind of a slow start to this game. Congratulations to the University of Seattle, who won the CBI tonight in a pretty wild finish against High Point. So the tournaments continue. We'll get into it as far as the Sweet 16 is concerned and get you caught up to date with all the latest trends, point spreads, and everything else in between. We're fired up for the Frozen Four. And the Frozen Four actually starts in the afternoon tomorrow. And our boy Julio is on location. Just like last week, he joined us from the NCAA basketball tournament. He's stepping up, and he's going to join us from South Dakota tomorrow night as the Frozen Four starts in the afternoon. So we're going to have to get our action down, similar to Major League Baseball. So as I tweeted out earlier in the day, and a lot of people agreed with me, it's not the first time I've talked about the stupidity of the National Hockey League and their schedule and, going head-to-head with the Sweet 16. Like, why would you want to go head-to-head with the Sweet 16? Right, you have an open opportunity to step up with a full slate of games, and you decide to have 2 games, and you have a full slate tomorrow with the Sweet 16. So we'll get into this and a lot more this evening. But Major League Baseball, I think, and their schedule makers, and Major League Baseball schedule makers used to be like a couple in Vermont. It really was. I think they smoked weed and ate Ben & Jerry's ice cream. They looked like hippies, and they sat at their kitchen table, and they did the baseball schedule forever. And Rob Manfred came in and fired them, went to a computer algorithm. And I don't know. Maybe the computer algorithm needs to learn that maybe it's not a good idea to have the New York Mets play their first game of the year in Queens, where their games get rained out in the middle of the summer, let alone the first game of the year. Is it that hard to put the East Coast teams on the West Coast? Is it that hard? This is SportsRage.
SportsGrid's going to have you covered for this NCAA tournament.
That's the movie that we know. When it's win or go home, they love to go home.
Tennessee's now in my phony club. They should all get together and drink green tea.
Furman's going to have a chance.
That is a team I'm betting on right now.
We are feeling this. You are feeling this at home. The excitement and the atmosphere.
Only on SportsGrid.
It does look like they're looking for a buyout here or a payoff here, trying to get in with DraftKings here, which does make some sense. And we're seeing this a lot with some of these smaller companies.
RSI selling Bet Rivers essentially would be really interesting. They have a bunch of Latin American companies that are countries that are ramping up that they're going to be profitable in. they're profitable now, even with their smaller stake.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the rim.
All I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live. Prime time.
Back-to-back just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live. Overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is SportsRage. I am Morency, the pimps, the players, the hustlers, the people who bust them, and everyone is in between. Shout out to Twizzy in our chat. We got our boy Tommy Z. Good to see you, Tommy. It's been a little while. Tommy's in New York, and he goes, let's go Yankees, Gabe. I know you're a true New Yorker, and I believe that you're actually a Yankees fan at heart. Ha ha. No, I'm actually not. I love you, Tommy, but I'm really not. I'm really not a Yankees fan at heart. I do love you, Tommy.
You better be a fan. Yeah, I'm a fan. That's amazing. I love it. That's great.
Told you, my team when I lived in New York was the New York Guardians of the XFL and the Brooklyn Nets when they were bad. Brooklyn Nets when they were bad. Hey, I'm a Dodger fan. How can I be a Yankee fan? Although I do respect the Yankees, as you can see. We've got the program, the cover of the program of the 1955 and 56 World Series here behind us. But good to see you, Ghoster. IUD, we got a full house here tonight. Ghoster's a big golf bettor's got a golf podcast, too. So he's fired up for this segment because we've got Brady Cannon and Cam Stewart in the house. So just quickly, as I stated, guys, Phoenix Suns and the Denver Nuggets. Phoenix Suns, it's kind of flown under the radar, but a terrible first quarter team. 2-8 in their last 10 games in the first quarter. Often fall behind early in games. 3-7 in the first quarter, their last 10 road games as well. So I want to throw that out there for people who like to bet the first quarter props. We're on the Houston Rockets plus 4.5 in game. We took them at the half. That's what the number was before the game. Houston lead 102-101 right now with 4:47 left. Let's bring in Brady Cannon, Cam Stewart. Brady, always good to see you. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Tommy, when we were backstage, mentioned he's ready for the Masters. More Derby prep races to go here. A couple more Derby prep races
couple more
to
weeks
go here before we get to Augusta.
Houston Open?
Yeah.
Now, what's after the Houston? Because they're in
Valero,
Texas for a couple of weeks, right?
Yeah, Valero,
Texas.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
The old Valero.
So they spend 2 weeks in Texas, huh? Right. Didn't they used to play? Am I crazy? Wasn't there another tournament in Georgia before the Masters they would play in?
I don't think so. They've got the RSM Classic, which they play in November. That's in St. Simon's Island, Georgia. I tell you what, I'm thinking
of the Scottish Open, actually. No, the Open. Okay. They always have the carbon copy.
Yeah, they
one
play
before,
Scottish.
right?
Yeah.
The couple of weeks before.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
I don't know about
you,
for
some reason I was thinking.
I don't know about you, Cam. I love the Harbor Town after the Masters.
One of my
they go to
favorite
South Carolina. Beautiful golf course. I was lucky enough to play it about 4 years ago. Hilton Head Island, South Carolina.
That's like Boxing Day. That's like Boxing Day where you get the deals after Christmas. Nobody's paying attention to golf after the Masters.
Correct.
Right. And these guys go down there after the grind that is the Masters, and it feels like everybody's on vacation. They just walk out to, Hilton Head Island and let's play some golf and relax for a minute. Great place. That's, you talk about tournaments before a major, whatever. That's one that's after a major that I always really enjoy.
So as we mentioned, they're in Houston, Texas this weekend. Texas is Texas is always banging. But if you think about it, the Sweet 16s in Dallas, Texas as well. You've got the Houston Cougars in action against the Duke Blue Devils, and you got the PGA Tour and the Houston Open, and of course, a local Texan in Scotty Scheffler in the house as well, looking to become the first golfer to win 3 straight events that he's entered since Dustin Johnson. I remember going back to the late great Brian Blessing. And Blessing's policy was he wouldn't bet like any golfer that was less than like 35 to 1 and stuff. And he would never be able to justify even a plus 700 or a plus 600 in the Tiger era and all this. And I was always fascinated by it, Brady, from the contrast of sort of the horse better, the golf better that looks for that value. And then a sports better that looks and goes, well, if this guy always wins, then maybe plus 300 is not that bad after all. That's like winning a plus 300 underdog in a bet that you'd be very happy about winning, right? Like, it's all relative, isn't it? Max Verstappen, people, you can't bet on F1. Well, yeah, you can. He wins every week. So you pick him to win, and you figure out who's going to finish second and third after that. Kevin Harvick was that for a couple of years in NASCAR, where it's like, oh, my God. He's like minus 150 to win a race. Like, this is crazy. But it's like, yeah, you know what? He's going to win. We're almost at that point with Scotty Scheffler right now. If he shows up and he wants to win, he'll win.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you. And I got to believe he is showing up to win once again in his home state of Texas. I can't bet him at plus 250. I've even seen 3 to 1, all the way up to 3 to 1. That's the best price I've seen. But I just can't really get involved in that. And, I heard somebody say earlier this week, if he's plus 450 to win the Masters, then 3 to 1 isn't so bad to beat this field in Houston. And that's probably true, but I just can't do it. I don't know about you, Cam, and I don't know what the number is. Maybe it's minus 400, minus 500. You talk about laying the wood with Max Verstappen and F1. We spoke about Floyd Mayweather. I mean, minus 500 was cheap on Floyd Mayweather. I don't think it's such a bad bet to maybe lay the wood with Scotty Scheffler to finish top 10, because there's not much question that is going to happen. He might not win the golf tournament, but top 10 finish, you got to believe that's as close as you can get to a sure thing.
Well, we bet minus 145s and minus 150s in baseball. That's what he is. He's minus 150 for a top 10. But I will say this, Brady. Cheap. Yeah, but let's remember one thing too. It's one of those situations where when Tiger Woods was this price, he was beating the field and annihilating them. Scheffler finds a way to come back and beat guys by a stroke, or Wyndham Clark hits a putt, whatever. So I still think there's thoughts in people's mind, Gabe, and you know this too. It's like, you're winning, but there's a lot of guys lingering. It's one of those situations where he is a stone cold closer, but it's just hard to really get behind that number, because also if you're not leading, you will get a better live number than 2 plus 250 if he's not on page 1 of the leaderboard after round 1. That's the issue.
Wyndham Clark is sort of establishing himself as the competition. Seems like there's Scheffler's up there. Wyndham Clark seems to be kind of better than everybody else right now, except Scheffler. He's sort of right there. You know what I mean, Brady? Like, Wyndham Clark's playing great golf. He's 12. And it's a big drop off. He's 12 to 1. Let me just throw this out here, though. This is the Captain Shock parlay. Scotty Scheffler to win the Houston Open, and the UConn Huskies to win the NCAA tournament. 10 to 1, plus 1016.
It sounds like a pretty good price, but I don't think it's going to happen. I actually don't think either one of those entries are going to win. I would not necessarily want to bet on UConn. They're hard to bet against. And it's the same thing with Scheffler. He's very difficult to bet against. You mentioned Wyndham Clark. 12-1. I've seen 14-1. Actually, here in Las Vegas at Circa, he's up to 20-1. And I think some of that is reaction to what came out earlier today. He only played a 9-hole practice round because he said he injured his back working out. And, a lot of times injury news is, it's not fake news, but it never really seems to come to fruition as far as betting against that guy. I mean, it was a couple weeks ago when everybody wanted to go against Hideki Matsuyama because he pulled out of the Pro-Am, and the guy was on fire for the first 3 rounds of the tournament.
What about Scheffler and his neck? He won with the neck
Scheffler
injury. Beware of the injured athlete. It's actually, you're getting a better price. It's like, okay, wouldn't you rather have 20 than 12, Gabe? Don't worry.
Yeah, but those are a few rare. Those are a few instances. There's also a lot of instances after where you hear something and the guy doesn't play one. You're like, damn, I even knew he had a bad back.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. It's true.
It's the same thing with MMA, Brady. I used to know too much stuff. I used to know managers and everything. They'd tell me, oh, man, he tweaked his knee last night or he had a bad weigh-in. Oh, he threw up this morning before the fight. And MMA, bettors do it all the time. They look at, the weigh-in. Oh, look, his cheekbones look enhanced or, thin and he looks pale. So what? The guy that's sick and pale wins. You know what I mean?
His cheekbones.
SportsGrid's going to have you covered for this NCAA tournament.
That's the movie that we know. When it's win or go home, they love to go home.
Tennessee's now in my phony club. They should all get together and drink green tea.
Furman's going to have a chance. That is a team I'm betting on right now.
We are feeling this. You are feeling this at home. The excitement and the atmosphere.
Only on SportsGrid.
It does look like they're looking for a buyout here or a payoff here, trying to get in with DraftKings here, which does make some sense. And we're seeing this a lot with some of these smaller companies.
RSI selling Bet Rivers essentially would be really interesting. They have a bunch of Latin American companies that are countries that are ramping up that they're going to be profitable in. They're profitable now, even with their smaller stake.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid. Your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats and fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the rim.
All I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart Team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
All right, so of course, after we dropped the stat about the Phoenix Suns always struggling in the first quarter, they're winning 19-14 right now over the Denver Nuggets. 6 minutes left in the first quarter of play. Pretty quick pace to this game, already with 33 points. In-game total is 234 and a half. All right, so Brady Cannon in the house with us, and he says he just can't lay this low number with Scotty Scheffler. So who are you looking at? Who are the dangerous players this week in H-Town?
Yeah, I actually went pretty deep down the board. My shortest shot is 28-1. And let me preface this by saying the correlated courses that I used this week: Royal Liverpool, where they played the British Open last summer; Silverado, Winged Foot, where they played the U.S. Open in 2020; PGA National, home of the Honda Classic; TPC Craig Ranch, home to the Byron Nelson; and Detroit Golf Club, where they play the Rocket Mortgage. So 28-1 on Jason Day, the defending champ of the Byron Nelson Championship at TPC Craig Ranch, I just mentioned. He won that last year. Was on a nice run to close out the West Coast swing with a couple of top 10 finishes. Played very respectable in Florida, a couple top 36 finishes at Bay Hill and the Players. He's won in the state of Texas multiple times. Very good in wind, as are most Australians. And he's finished as high as 7th here at Memorial Park. And he was runner-up at that British Open to Brian Harman last summer. Alex Noren at 40-1. Doesn't hit it as long as you might like. The player profile this week is hit it long and have a really good short game. Well, he's got a great short game. He's a very good ball striker, and his work on the correlated courses is pretty nuts. He's been 4th here at Memorial Park, 12th at TPC Craig Ranch, 3 top 10s at PGA National, 17th at Winged Foot, 23rd at last year's Open Championship, and a 9th and a 4th in Detroit. Also number 1 in this field the last 36 rounds for bogey avoidance, which is going to be popular this week, or important, I should say, this week. It is not a birdie fest. You're going to want to avoid bogeys. Very difficult golf course. And then 43-1, which I thought was a pretty generous price on Keith Mitchell, who was, about to win the golf tournament last year until he took a nosedive on Sunday. He was 10 under par last week through 3 rounds at the Valspar. Been really striping the irons. We know he's been tremendous his whole career off the tee. He has what I say makes sense around here: the length off the tee, the accuracy off the tee, and the short game's firing right now. So I went with Killer Keith at Memorial Park, where he finished 9th last year, and he's also got 2 top 10s and a win at PGA National. And then Billy Horschel, a tour veteran who's been playing very well this year, specifically on courses with Bermuda grass, like we have here in Houston. 18th at the Sony, 9th at the Cognizant, and 12th last week at the Valspar. So Horschel, I think, is in pretty good form. He's got 2 wins and a runner-up in his career in the state of Texas. Got him at 70-1. And then I went to the triple digits. We got to go there. We've had 6 or 7 guys now on tour cash as pre-tournament triple-digit odds. K.H. Lee at 100-1. He's got 2 top 10 finishes in his last 3 starts. And I mentioned TPC Craig Ranch, where they hold the Byron Nelson. All he did was win that back-to-back in 2021 and 2022. And K.H. Lee, again, has that combination of length off the tee and a good short game that we're looking for this week. And so does Joseph Bramlett, who I took at 125-1. Last week, he finished 17th at the Valspar. He was 2nd in the field for strokes gained off the tee and also 2nd for strokes gained around the green. So exactly what I'm talking about, getting it done off the tee and around the green. He finished 9th here last year at Memorial Park. He's got a 12th in Napa and a 7th at TPC Craig Ranch. And then finally, the longest bomb, Carl Yuan at 150-1. Great playing last week, where he finished 5th at the Valspar. Also has a 4th at the Sony to start the year. Again, another Bermuda grass course. This guy is 5th on tour in driving distance and 18th in strokes gained around the green. I love that combination. I love the form that he comes in off of the nice performance at the Valspar. So a 7-pack this week, guys, all the way from 28-1 to 150-1.
Cam, what do you got this week?
I got a lot of stuff that's very. I got Billy Horschel, the same as Brady, Gabe. So I'm going to take it with him. I think Tagala's going to play well, but I took Will Zalatoris at 20. Tom Hoagie, we talk about Texas guys. He's a TCU Horned Frog. I wish he had a little more length, but I think he'll do really, really well here at 50-1. Jake, afternoon nap, Gabe. Watch out. Everyone's off this guy. I'm getting back on him. Everyone loves a nap at 60-1. Billy Horschel, you got a better number than me. Brady at 65. I'm going to tell you guys something. Watch out for dangerous Joel Damon this week. 5th at this course before and 9th, trending in the right direction. He's 85-1, and I like your Alex Noren play, Brady. I have him in matchups, and I have him top 10 and 20. Ashke Batea, very smart. There we go. There's my Alex Noren plus 170 for a top 20. And you talked about Detroit. Nasty Nate Lashley for a top 40, Brady, plus plus 210 for a top 40. Gabe, I've been doing this stuff because I'm telling you, sometimes these guys slip out of the 20. You got to bet them top 40 to plus money. Sam Ryder's trending up, and so is Andrew Novak. All this guy does is make cuts in money right now, plus 145.
What do you think, Brady?
I love the plus 40 bets at plus money. Those are really good plays. And you're right about Lashley in Detroit. Novak's been a very hot player. Finally had a hiccup at the Players' Championship, but I think he'll find his way back into that top 40 for sure, if not better. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are playing pretty darn well right now. All the names that we mentioned, I think, make sense this week. And as we know, you can't bet them all.
Nope. Well, you know what? Betting a top 40, that's like almost like a 10-point teaser. Like, if you can't get top 40, you didn't deserve to win your bet. You know what I'm saying?
You picked the wrong guy.
Yeah, you're like, hey, listen, like, you didn't.
The worst game is when you bet a top 40 and the guy finished like 42nd. It's like, come on, dude, it's top 50 in ties. Why'd you gag on that one? Those ones hurt the most because it's almost a guarantee if he makes the cut, but sometimes it doesn't work.
And
it's
you
like
guys
the NCAA tournament. Teams that finish 69th, the last team out.
Yeah, exactly.
Ouch. All those guys, the seven plays that I played for an outright win, I also played them to finish top 20. And let's see, I think they're all plus money. Jason Day might have been around even, maybe plus 120, something like that. But they're all pretty much plus money. And you know, like Yuan and Bramlett, those guys are like plus 450 for a top 20.
So the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Houston Rockets. The Rockets have won 9 games in a row. They were up by 2 points. They were up 111-109. They go to the free throw line. They brick the first free throw. They hit the second one. And basically there was like 8 seconds left or whatever. And Oklahoma City needed to hit a 3 to tie the game. And they did. If you would have hit both free throws, you would have had a 4-point lead. But instead, we're going to overtime. Houston took it to the rack at the end of the regulation. Good non-call, whatever. Let them play late in a basketball game. And, man, it was close, but the ball didn't go in. Houston did everything possible, but the ball didn't go in. And the worst possible thing is an underdog better when you got plus 4.5. The 2 words you don't want to hear, overtime. Damn. But we're on the Rockets, plus 4.5 going to overtime.
Biggest fans of the Thunder tonight, Gabe, are the Golden State Warriors. They pull off that win at Orlando. The first time they've won at Orlando with no Draymond Green, no Jonathan Kuminga. They get the victory. And if Houston loses, I think they'll be up 2 games on the Rockets for that final spot in the play-in tournament.
Yeah, Houston's knocking on the door right now, trying to get into 10th place. The way that they're playing, though, they're on a relentless run right now, but it's going to be hard to catch because the Lakers are balling. Phoenix in action right now against the Denver Nuggets. So you said earlier, Brady, and listen, I can understand Scottie Scheffler not winning this tournament, but I do believe that UConn, I think that Hurley might be pushing it a little bit when he's talking about like they're bulletproof. It's rare to hear a coach be so confident publicly like this, in which he said, we have no flaws, we're bulletproof. Right, coming into this week. If they've got flaws, nobody is bulletproof, but who do you think knocks them off? Because I don't think anybody is.
Well, in my bracket, which means nothing, I have Iowa State knocking them out, which I think is possible because they play such good defense. Now, Iowa State will really have to just suffocate UConn and play they'll have to play a perfect game, like maybe they did against Houston in the Big 12
They got to beat Illinois. They got to beat Illinois.
Right, exactly. Right. You just asked me who could beat them.
Yeah.
I don't think Illinois can, because I don't know if Illinois can play good enough defense. I think you have to be a really good defensive team. And I tell you, another team that people kind of like to hate on, but they probably have as high a ceiling as anybody, including UConn, and that's Arizona. I mean, Arizona can blow people out. We saw them do it all season long, and I know they were playing Pac-12 competition. But this team has a ton of talent, and they can play defense. I think Arizona is a possibility. I think Iowa State, because of the defense they play, is a possibility. And maybe just because of familiarity, Marquette might be able to catch UConn once, and how many times out of 10 can they get it done? Well, you only need once. And again, Marquette plays good D, good O, knows this opponent like the back of their hand. Those would be my three teams that could possibly beat UConn.
Brady Cannon kicking with us. I think that, for me, I think Purdue could give them a problem. If it was UConn, Purdue, just because if Purdue gets that far, they would have confidence, like a lot of confidence by that point, with the 5 straight wins under their belt in the tournament. And people have a hard time dealing with UConn size inside. Purdue, at least, it would nullify it a bit. But I think Hurley's so good at adapting, adjusting, and using different approaches. Like, really great coaches, to me, have different game plans for different games. Like, they just don't have, this is what we do, and we're going to force our will, right? Like, no, we're going to adjust because we're playing a different opponent. Thank you, Brady.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
SportsGrid's going to have you covered for this NCAA tournament.
That's the movie that we know. When it's win or go home, they love to go home.
Tennessee's now in my phony club. They should all get together and drink green tea.
Furman's going to have a chance. That is a team I'm betting on right now.
We are feeling this. You are feeling this at home. The excitement and the atmosphere.
Only on SportsGrid.
It does look like they're looking for a buyout here or a payoff here, trying to get in with DraftKings here, which does make some sense. And we're seeing this a lot with some of these smaller companies.
RSI selling Bet Rivers essentially would be really interesting. They have a bunch of Latin American companies that are countries that are ramping up that they're going to be profitable in. They're profitable now, even with their smaller stake.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats in fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the
All
rim.
I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
Thanks to Brady Cannon for kicking with us. This is SportsRage. I am Gabriel Morency. So, as I stated earlier, nothing worse than when you've got like plus points, plus 3.5, plus 4, whatnot, and you're on the underdog and they're winning the game or they're losing by a point only, and somehow it ends up in overtime. And I'm on the Houston Rockets plus 4.5. If they hit both free throws late, they would have been up by 4, but of course they missed the first end. They hit the back end of it. And then, of course, Oklahoma City hits the damn 3 to send the game to overtime. Houston responds, punches him in the mouth, scores like the first 7 points of overtime, takes the lead, and here we go again. It's deja vu all over again, as the great Yogi Berra once stated. Here comes Oklahoma City. Houston just hit a big 3 to take a 6-point lead right now, 126-100, 1 minute left in overtime. Dear God, now Oklahoma City just responded with a 3. It doesn't end without SGA. Paul Bovey steps up and in. Paul, any action on this basketball game? Big game, actually. The Rockets have won 9 in a row. They're trying to play themselves into the play-in tournament. Golden State won tonight in Orlando as underdogs. This massive game here for the Houston Rockets, and they're balling right now in overtime. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing good. Actually, I'm on the Rockets as well. I bought it up to 5. I grabbed them in the first half, so they were down by 1. So that actually worked out. And I'm sitting here on pins and needles, just like you, Gabe, hoping the Houston Rockets hold on. This is like a train coming down the track, man. I think they won 8 in a row, and I think they're poised to catch the Golden State Warriors, who may be set up to fail.
This will be 10, Paul, if they pull it off coming in. I think this is 9
10.
now. So it'll be 10 if they pull this one off tonight. A lot of people liked Orlando tonight. And, Golden State got it done anyway, shorthanded. What'd you think about that tonight?
Yeah, I mean, look, they swept Florida, which is always a chore, and they go into Charlotte on Sunday, and I think they're going to have their hands full. Hornets win tonight. I actually had them team total over second half 48. I clicked that one in, got it in by a point. They scored 49, win the game, 118-111. And the last time these two teams played, Lester Quinones sank a layup with like 12 seconds to go when they could have run the clock out. It ended up in a lot of pushing, shoving, ejection. So I think Charlotte will be up for this game and possibly upset the Warriors on Sunday. So I think Houston could actually catch this team.
I talked before the Phoenix-Denver game, guys, how the Phoenix Suns have struggled in first quarters, 2-8 in their last 10 in the first quarter. They were getting 2, but, if you played Denver money line in the first quarter, it ended up being a push. 29-29 after the first quarter of play in the Mile High City. Did you play this game tonight, Paul? First half game, quarter bets, Suns and Nuggets. Current number, so it's 31-29 Phoenix. They just scored. 10:44 left in the second quarter. Denver now laying 4.5 points. Total 225.5, Paul. What are your thoughts on this matchup?
I would grab the points right now because Phoenix has played this team tough this year. You could tell it's a difficult matchup for the Nuggets, and I think this game is going to come down to the wire. So if you could take points here, I take it, and I grab the Suns.
Cam, there's no late-night NHL this evening, so
nope.
What are you betting on? Are you betting on these NBA games?
Yeah, I actually had the under in the Golden State game, and I hit, and the last couple of games have gone under. I'll take Paul's advice if you want to give me Phoenix. The number's not great right now, plus 3.5 on FanDuel Live, Morency. I was going to ask you guys, you got any opinion of the total with this game? Because there's only going to be 2 games left on the board. I'll ride your guys' wave. I don't know what I'm thinking. We got 32-31 right now for Phoenix.
Paul?
I have no opinion on the total. I have no opinion on the total on the game.
No, Denver don't play at a quick pace. If it comes down to 217.5 or 2, if it keeps dropping and stuff. I mean, it was at 234.5 at one point, but I really don't have an interest here chasing the 225.5. I'm about to lose a total bet in the NIT. 65-40 right now. Utah are absolutely smashing Virginia Commonwealth, and that was the theme tonight. UNLV got lit up, Paul, tonight. I don't know if you're betting any of this NIT stuff, but it's been pretty good. These tournaments, the CBI, the CITs, and the NITs of the world, they're like bowl games, man. Like the coaches ease up, like the defenses ease up, right? Like the games, most of them have been like, there's been a lot of track meets in these games, except, you got to know, like you just talked about a train, you got to know what stop to get off at, because at some point they do start to play a little bit defense as they start to see the finish line in these tournaments. We saw that tonight with High Point and Seattle. These two teams have been playing track meets all week, man. It was like 25-10. Nearly at the half or something, because there was a championship on the line. It got real, but we've had some fun betting the overs. Have you been betting the NIT at all, Paul? And we'll get into the Sweet 16.
I actually did bet Sunday. I went Iowa and Utah over at live 166, and it worked out. So I do dabble in that in the NIT, but it's not my focus right now. As you know, the NBA is where I'm dialed into, and that's what I've been doing. But I'm sure I'll be once again hitting college basketball this weekend, as you will and everybody else will, as I did this past weekend. Although it's not my mainstay, I do play live. Some of the games worked out. As you mentioned, Gabe, these games go into overtime, very difficult. A lot of the Oregon backers were very disappointed. Oakland hung on, fortunately. If you grab the 6.5, they lose by 6. And some of the games work out, and overtime is always a tough proposition when you have the dog.
I keep coming back to the overtime in this Creighton-Tennessee game. It's the last game of the week. It's the last game on Friday night. Creighton and Tennessee. Tennessee are 2.5-point favorites. If any game has overtime written all over it, I think this one does. I'm curious, Paul. Last night we were talking college basketball. We were talking about the venues and the totals. And most of these games, for the most part, are actually being played in NBA arenas. I personally think that it's over-talked about, the venues nowadays. Modern kids, man, like they're assassins, these kids. Like they can shoot anywhere. The whole, they're going to be phased by it's in a stadium. No, they're not. Like, you know what I mean? I remember they played on a freaking battleship and they hit shots. Like seriously, and the floor was wet. Like yeah, it was wet. They were like swish. People were like, "Oh, bet the under on the battleship, Cam." I swear, bro, it was like 90 to 80 or something.
On the ship?
Swish,
it's like
swish,
shut up.
swish.
I know that was the best.
So everyone's talking about sight lines.
Yeah.
But these are NBA arenas. There's nothing weird about this, right? So, but it's always interesting. They've had a couple of days off now, so I don't know, like. Do the underdogs continue? Historically, this is where the favorites start to flex their muscle, guys, in the Sweet 16, right? Like the first little run is over now. But it's hard to get in front of these teams. It's always that debate, Paul. Like, look, like Arizona should beat Clemson. You could argue, they could beat them by 10, but Clemson are hot right now. But are they still going to be hot?
Yeah, well, I didn't really get into the nuts and bolts of all these games. I zeroed in on a couple, notably the North Carolina-Alabama game, which I think they set a very high number at 173, and I think it's high for a reason. Alabama just doesn't play any defense. They're outside the top 100 in defensive efficiency. They have playmaking guards that are going to drive North Carolina crazy, but the Tar Heels play defense. And I think they are a favorite that may flex their muscles in a very high-scoring game that I think will get into the 190s and sky this total. But, the favorites tend to do well right now, and I think Arizona should take care of business, but it's something I'm going to sit back on and probably look at to play live.
I think the NCAA tournament is the best example or the best reason to have live in-game betting because it is so volatile.
Absolutely.
Right? Exactly. You know what I mean? Like other stuff is predictable. Like, all right, NFL is going to move. This is going to score a touchdown, field goal. Like, it's going to happen. College, you don't know. Right? You don't know what team's going to show up. They might be hot. They might be cold. How the ref's going to call it. Are they going to toss a bunch of bricks? We see as the games go on, the first half unders start to hit a lot more. Teams can start to tighten up a little bit. But I'm just sort of riding waves and history here. And I've talked about it. I brought it up last night, Cam. the Yukon Huskies last year, guys, they were 6-0 straight up and against the spread in the NCAA tournament.
Mm-hmm.
They are now 2-0 straight up and against the spread in this year's tournament. That's 8 straight covers.
Amazing.
In their last 30 NCAA tournament games, they are 24-6 against the spread. Like, we're talking about a dominant run in a tournament right now for the Yukon Huskies, and with Hurley as their coach. We spoke with Brady Cannon earlier, Paul. He doesn't believe the Yukon will win it all. I've already got him in a future. I wish I had a bigger piece of them, but I do believe Yukon will win it all. And I think they're going to cover against San Diego State as well, guys. You know, last year they drilled San Diego State. Like, San Diego State might close the gap a little bit, but they're going to lose again.
I think a thing that's very important that you talked about on yesterday's show too, Gabe, is at the end, teams not quitting. And you saw what happened with Grand Canyon. When things got away from them, it really got away from them. They started panicking. Alabama took advantage and covered a big number with the live number. So it's something to remember. A lot of the times when they feel it slip away, these teams don't come back. And then, you know what I mean? They win by margin. So it's something to consider in the live betting market. A lot of these teams down the stretch just absolutely fade when they have no chance.
Yeah, and don't turn your back. I mean, I had Grand Canyon plus 7.5. I turned my back and checked, and it was like gone. I mean, Alabama just blows them out on a 17-3 run. So, you know, these things happen, and I think live betting is great in these tournament games because of the gyrations. So normally you're going to get a better number than if you sit back and take it pre-game and press the button there. So sit back, be patient, wait for your number, don't chase it, and more than likely you'll end up in a good position.
Especially like Alabama, North Carolina, if this thing just starts off slow a little bit, you'll be able to get like a 162 or something. Like, you know what I mean? That total is interesting. You know, I love betting on overs, Paul. I bet a lot more overs and unders when it comes to college basketball, but North Carolina do play good defense. Alabama are streaky as well. They don't always light it up and put up, 80 points a game. But at the same point in time, I don't think they're going to be able to stop North Carolina. Right? North Carolina is going to be able to score on them pretty much at will. And I think North Carolina will be able to come up with a couple of more stops that Alabama does as well. I actually do have the Tar Heels going to the Final Four. They'll have to beat the winner of Clemson and Arizona after. And everybody's got it lined up because Caleb Love was on North Carolina before, of course. You know, now he's on Arizona, and they would go head to head after the fact, which would be a cool matchup.
You know, one other factor about Alabama, they foul a lot. So you got to figure North Carolina is going to get to the free throw line, and it's another case to be made for going to the high side of a very puffy number, but I still think they're going to get there.
173.5. North Carolina are now laying 4.5, not 4 anymore in this game. Minus 200 on the money line.
SportsGrid's going to have you covered for this NCAA tournament.
That's the movie that we know. When it's win or go home, they love to go home.
Tennessee's now in my phony club. They should all get together and drink green tea.
Furman's going to have a chance. That is a team I'm betting on right now.
We are feeling this. You are feeling this at home. The excitement and the atmosphere.
Only on SportsGrid.
It does look like they're looking for a buyout here or a payoff here, trying to get in with DraftKings here, which does make some sense. And we're seeing this a lot with some of these smaller companies.
RSI selling Bet Rivers essentially would be really interesting. They have a bunch of Latin American companies that are countries that are ramping up that they're going to be profitable in. They're profitable now, even with their smaller stake.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid. SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Pro League Soccer, powered by Marca.
I would be willing to bet the under 2.5 goals.
Fantasy sports today.
Especially in head-to-head formats and fantasy, I think I'm going to go with Juan Soto.
Game time decisions.
People don't like it. I don't really care. I cannot believe anybody is betting the Clippers at this number.
Betting above the rim.
All I've heard you say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Nobody has been more profitable as a dog than Shaka Smart team.
Winning back-to-back road games. I don't care if they're playing Topeka High. I wouldn't give them any chance whatsoever.
In-game live, prime time.
Back-to-back, just utterly stinker quarters.
In-game live, overtime.
Honestly, as you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
This is SportsRage. I am Morency. We're kicking it. Paul Bovey in the house. San Antonio Spurs are leading the Utah Jazz right now, 98-85. And the Phoenix Suns are up 44-33. Paul said, hey, thinks the Phoenix Suns are live in this game. They're up 44-33 right now on the Denver Nuggets. In-game total is 225.5. Suddenly the Phoenix Suns are minus 150 on the money line. Denver plus 120. Denver just scored a bucket. Utah are on the verge of beating VCU. They're going to cover. They're up 71-50. One of these games, man, where Utah came out very similar to Seton Hall and UNLV tonight.
Yeah, good call.
Like UNLV were down like 15-4 early right away, and it got away from them, and they were chasing all night, and they went on a little run, and then boom, next thing you knew, they were down by 20 at the half. And it was the same thing tonight with Utah, where Utah just absolutely ambushed FSU early. It was like 14-2, and they never really got back in it. They were playing uphill all night. It catches up to these NIT teams when they're traveling around. For the record, this year's NIT final, no longer, of course, at Madison Square Garden. It was in Vegas last year. This year, it's at the field house where Butler played. It's actually a pretty cool venue. But it should be. You believe that, Paul? The NIT's not at MSG anymore. They got outbid. Yeah. Other cities came in and stole it from them.
Yeah, sometimes things just change. It's going to be a tough adjustment, but we'll get there. But it's what are you going to do?
It's like playing the Rose Bowl, not at the Rose Bowl. The NIT's got to be at MSG. Yeah. It's not right. I don't know. New York says they're going to try to get it back, but nevertheless, if people are wondering, it's in Indianapolis this year. So yeah, 73-52 for the Utah Utes. They're going to advance here in the NIT. We'll get Paul's overnight NBA thoughts on the other side. Then we're going to hit baseball with George Kurtz. Baseball is back.